Yo, what up? Streaming live. This is, if you couldn't tell by the description, a preview of the Challenge Ride or Die Season 38. We're going to power through this because your boy got stuff to do, but I wanted to get some takes off, bro. Get some takes off about a couple of the teammates and the partners and jack like that. So, as soon as we get done doing social media shit, we'll hop onto it. I am gonna record this on the pod stream. That's why I labeled it the way that I labeled it, so that people can know. Oh, not listening to that episode. Hold on. Did I just get a message from Kyle and just saw it? Anyway, moving on. We're live on Twitch and on YouTube right now. Hopefully people can hear us on both of those platforms. There's only one way to find out, gents, is to go check. That's what we're going to do. Bro, there is no fucking way. There's a YouTube creator. It just got sourced into my regular YouTube feed, and it is a 6 and under football league, which is absolutely absurd to me. To not only have kids who are 6 and under playing football, like tackle football with pads on and stuff like that, but also to be trying to broadcast and make money off of it. Interesting. Choices. Some choices that adults make. Can totally tell you that those coaches are 100% reasonable, right? I'm sure they're totally reasonable human beings. Manager to manager. Sound check is complete for YouTube. Gotta do a sound check for Twitch. One day we're gonna have a whole production team. We'll be able to do this before. I was just talking to my boy about Ninja. Been checking out some of his streams lately, man. Dude still got it. He still got the game. He still got the skill. He's still, once in a generation level type dude. All right, we got confirmation that the stream is on there. I'm gonna work on the font for the Challenge Ride or Die thing up there. That's just the best that I could think of, honestly, bro. So let me go to the Twitch dashboard, creator dashboard. Let's see what the bitrate is looking like. Is it trash today? Let's keep it a buck. Oh, look at that. Bitrate's bad again. Don't know what that means. Maybe our bitrate is not a thing. I'm starting to think that the creator dashboard doesn't know what it's talking about, but hey, what do I know? Yo. This is crazy, bro. Premiere. Man, whoever's out there watching, shout out to you. If you're a fan of the challenge, your boys got you covered. Wow. Oh my god. Bro. Twitch, why are you gonna do me like that, man? I just tried to copy and paste the Twitch link and it put the Twitch creator dashboard link as opposed to, anyway. Hide player, pop out. Never mind. I should just go to Twitch and click on my own shit. You think Twitch will ever bring back their actual app, like on their shit? That was actually pretty easy for me to share my stream on. Mama's got this. By the way, we're still at that point now where our affiliate status is literally just waiting on people, or my only job as a creator is to get multiple people in the stream at one time while it's live, as opposed to what happens, which is where everybody watches the show after the fact. One day I'll figure it out. One day I'll do something on Twitter other than just like try and crack jokes and drop opinions. I'll actually do some work on social media as a platform. But until then, until I get my big break on TikTok, we'll have to settle for this, boys. We're apparently very close to affiliate. I'm interested to see what's on the other side. To see what's on the other side of affiliation. All right, Control A, copy. I wonder how many other people do I legit wonder how many other people are doing a challenge Twitter podcast. Like, I've seen other ones for sure, but they specialize in like reality TV. I'm wondering how many specialize in specifically like the challenge. And also, one thing, don't understand this. The challenge has like a little emoji thing for it. And I don't know whose face it is. It's really weird. Like, it's like a face of a person. And I'm assuming it's TJ Lavin, but I can't be sure because it's not like super defined. Mama's got this. By the way, my personal Twitter account at the Ashton J continues to blow the fuck up, and I have no idea why. We are now at 1,020 followers. I've gained more followers there than I have on my other main account with like 4,000. My sports account, which has like 4,000 followers in the past like year. I've gained more followers in the past like couple months. Shout out to the bots who are making that possible for me. I appreciate that. It's going to be a real bummer when all of them get deleted that one day out of the year that Twitter sweeps and they try and figure out who's a bot and who's not. You know what I mean? Anyway, time to record this podcast and get some music popping. Hopefully no copyright claims today, especially considering we technically own all of the music that is being made. So that's fun. Not this one. We're going to use the song that I really want to make the theme song of the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. It's Humble Beliefs. Sorry. Humble Beliefs, eh? There we go. There we go. Cool. We're going to start from the top. I got a lot of shit to get through real quickly. Don't worry, I got you. You're in first class hands. I was going to sing it, but I didn't because I love you guys that much. I'm not going to sing on this podcast. Let's go. Let's get it cooking. We already got a retweet on the tweet for this one. All right. Ooh, shit. Let me copy and paste this link. Remember, this is a preview. I will not be addressing spoilers. I actually got spoiled a little bit, but I kind of forgot them because I was researching at like 3 a.m. for this show specifically. And I think I forgot most of them, which is nice because I didn't look at it. It took me a second to realize that people were spoiling. And then I was like, yo, what the hell's going on? And then I went and looked, and, it happens, man. It happens, especially with a reality TV show because everybody wants to be the cool guy, right? Like, everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to be the cool person. And so they'll do stuff like spoil and be like, I know something that you didn't know. That's legitimately something that people hang their hat on. The challenge. The challenge. I wish I could name that. I wish I could make that the name. Wow. I wish I could make that the name of this podcast. The challenge. But I don't know how to write it that way. I don't know where the accent will go, actually. God damn it. I keep putting a space on this app that lets you type in hashtags prior to releasing it. The challenge, ride, or dies. There we go. All right, podcast is about to go off, so we got to get serious. Dial it in, folks. Focus up. Focus up. All right, get it ready. Going live in 3, 2. Yo, what up? This is the first of what I'm assuming is going to be many episodes of this here podcast. The challenge begins tonight. If you are not familiar with me, like as a person, my name is Ashton Gene Lewis. I host the Broke Boy Sports Podcast, which talks about sports, and then I have like an NFL only episode that I put out every week where after I've watched every single second of every single game. Yes, I'm dead serious about that too. It takes 4 days for me to do it, and it sucks. Those 4 days suck. Even though I love football, I love watching football, but it makes me a better gambler, makes me a better sports fan, and helps me make a better podcast. Anyway, other than that, I also am a big fan of not necessarily reality TV because I wouldn't put the challenge in that category of show. If you're not familiar with it, and this is your intro to it, I'm gonna try and make it as exciting as it is for me. I remember Road Rules when I was a kid. I know who CT and Bananas were. I just never paid much attention to it. I remember watching Road Rules New Orleans and all the challenges that went with that or whatever. But when the challenge came into existence, during quarantine, I had watched seasons prior to it or whatever. But I took the time during quarantine to go back and watch all the way up until like the most recent, like almost up until it became Road Rules to the challenge. So I've watched like most of every season, and you'll hear me reference previous seasons in this one, including last season, because that's important in terms of like framing what's going to happen. So just to give a quick overview, I'm going to talk about the challenge, Ride or Dies. It's season 38 of the challenge. It's very impressive as a show. It's been on this long. It's one of the top grossing shows on MTV, which is a network that is slowly but surely like losing regular live content on a regular basis because it's tough to continue to stay on top, which they were for a really long time. But the challenge has stayed atop those lists. Anyway, so the challenge Ride or Dies this season is season 38. I'll give you a general overview of what the format's supposed to be because every single season it's a different format. Sometimes you start off in teams, sometimes you start off as individuals, and you get sorted into teams each day that there's a daily challenge. So the information that we have available to us without looking at the spoilers that are already on the internet, obviously, because it's a reality TV show and all it really takes is being cool with a couple of people who are on the show and them just spilling the beans, especially since every single season there is somebody who is pissed off about something and they don't care about revealing information to certain people, right? So, basically, the Ride or Dies aspect of it is that for the first time ever, people get to pick the partner that they are going to be bringing onto the show. It's very reminiscent of Bloodlines to a certain degree. Bloodlines is a season where players were able to pick bring their siblings or relatives as their partner for that season. But for Ride or Die, it seems like it's a looser format in terms of like how you're connected. There are 100% partner pairs in this. We're going to get to every single partner pair and tell you. I'm going to dump all the information that I know about them and learned about them in my research. But there are partner pairs on here that are just people that they dumped in this situation because they feel like they're going to be entertainment, and once again fitting the format of you previously there's very few people on this season that have just like flat out, and despite the fact that these are supposed to be people you're close with, a lot of the reality TV show people hang out in the same circles, end up in the same cities, at the same parties. Legitimately, it seems like if you go to any weekend in Las Vegas, you will find somebody who was on the challenge. There have been people who have talked about on other podcasts about how they suggest certain people or give them the thumbs up to the producers based off of how they interacted with them at a party, which is understandable. But that's like a real thing, right? That's a real thing, and because of that, there are very few people on this season that have never been on a reality TV show, and that experience on a reality TV show is vastly important in terms of how these people are going to act, because let's be for real, not everybody's being there's basically nobody's being upfront or honest about what their intentions are, how they're acting on a legitimate scale. Whether like you have to be able to read in certain situations where you can tell somebody's faking an outrage or faking being angry or trying to rile somebody up for either strategic advantage or for the advantage of being a person that the producers want to stick around longer. And we've seen in years past that when it comes time for, they can't necessarily just completely protect you from elimination, but there have been instances where the producers just so happen to forget the correct answer to like math problems, or sometimes where the producers design a challenge, and we'll talk about Laurel's situation a little bit later on, design a challenge specifically to keep a certain type of athlete that has a certain skill set in the game. Like that happens for sure. That's a real thing. So and this season, like I said before, they have allowed each person to pick the person that they bring onto the show. Some people picked loved ones. Some people picked people that they're friends with. It is very clear that there are some people who picked people that were assigned by the producers. There's one situation where it definitely comes off like somebody, or two situations in particular, we'll talk about that later, but it comes off like they picked somebody that they are sexually or romantically interested in, but have not, or they tried in years past and it just didn't work out that way, and the house seems like an opportunity to possibly get something shaken. You know what I mean? They also obviously took the opportunity to make sure that every single person selected is ridiculously attractive on every facet and every level. I will tell you this much right now. I did not have enough time to load images of each person that is going to be on the show. I'm going to change that. I'm going to use some of the headshots that MTV, wrong number of letters in the network name, but MTV provided. I'm going to try and use some of those to make some magic happen. You know what I mean? So with that being said, let's dive into it. So I have went back and I took an important aspect of the challenge that pops up from time to time, and is the breakdown of the numbers in terms of the show. So initially, there are going to be 14 groups that are not comprised of another group of people that are going to get added in later on. They're called the heavy hitters. I'm not going to be talking about those until those people or those groups until they appear on the show, which apparently is going to happen like relatively soon based off of when we saw in the promo that they pop up or whatever. It's a typical tactic that we've seen out of the challenge in years past. They've been called different things. They've been called mercenaries. They've been called like expatriates or something like that kind of deal. But they're basically players that have legendary status within the game and can shift by just their mere presence in the house, can shift can shift how things go. Like there can be people who are in charge when certain people are not around, but because of connections, and we'll talk about alliances and former instances, because alliances and people you're connected to are vastly important for the times that you do not win the daily challenges, because there are people who tactically do not win daily challenges to keep people's eyes off of them, and we'll talk about that as it goes along. But there are certain players that they have connections with the entirety of the house in some way, shape, or form. Even people they've betrayed in seasons past, they have connections that can be utilized to a certain extent, right? Because at the end of the day, all these people hang out with each other after the season is over with. A lot of these people are friends. That is going to be, I think, a stark difference because once again, the challenge is moving forward. It's on season 38. They cannot keep the same consistent faces around. CT's been on here the last couple of seasons. I saw some stats where like Nani's got the longest show streak in the history of the challenge in terms of like consecutive seasons of the challenge that she's been on is 6 right now, and that's a lot of years. That's 6 years out of Nani's life. She's getting older, all this kind of stuff like that. We'll talk about the situation that's going on there and everything else that comes with it. So let's start off with the breakdown of the other reality TV shows because you'll learn as time goes on, the challenge has a formula and the formula works. They pull people who either won, were runner-ups, or were participants that made like big splashes or like medium splashes in different reality TV shows onto the challenge that are in really good shape. And we'll talk about a couple of them as time goes on. So let's go for the show breakdown. Big Brother, which has been a scourge on the challenge universe for the past couple of years, is once again at the top of the pile in terms of people who have been on Big Brother. That does not necessarily mean they're connected. That does not mean that all these people are in an alliance together, although the Big Brother alliance has had a vast majority of power, and also other information came out that one of the alternates was a big member of the Big Brother alliance, and it was Josh Martinez, who, for whatever you have to say about him being annoying, he is undyingly loyal to the people that he's in an alliance with. So despite the fact that they keep betraying him every single season, Big Brother has 5 people in the 14 pairs that are available. So what's that? 14, 28 people. They have 5 out of the 28 people. All those people are not on the same page. 2 of them are champions. One of them is the reigning champ, Casey, who brought her brother. We'll talk about her in a little bit, who brought her brother on as her partner for this show. And then the other one is Amber B, who has, by the way, become just Amber. Amber, the Alpha Amber, because there used to be multiple Ambers on different seasons, and they used to call her Amber B, and now Amber is just Amber, because there's not another Amber on the show. She brought her boyfriend, which could could set her up for something, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the pros and the pros and the cons of each one of these partner pairs, because some of them are very effective. At the end of the show, I'm also going to reveal my bottom 5 and my top 5 partners from just the appearance that I've seen. So Big Brother 5, they have 2 champions. 4 of the 5 people in the Big Brother alliance. Let me make sure I got it right here on my sheet. I wrote it all down so I could remember. But yeah, so it's Fessy, Casey, and Tommy and Tommy and Annalise, a person that a lot of people think is going to make some big waves. We'll talk about Tommy and Annalise a little bit later on. I have a very specific connection to Tommy and Annalise, but Casey and Fessy are on the same alliance for sure. We know that. They've run a final together before, and they've also plotted to run that final together. Like, legitimately, Fessy betrayed his partner at the final elimination to be able to be partners with Casey. Amber won a partnered version of the final, and I think she won like $750,000 or $250,000, something like that. But she won because she has like crazy cardio. She's one of those gals that her primary form of working out is running. She's pretty athletic, and she's pretty strong for a person her size. Anyway, she's not cool with the rest of the Big Brother people because of some stuff where like they called her a snake and untrustworthy, which guess what is every single person on this show, which is that's what makes this show the best. The people who try to act like a reasonable human being get completely demolished in this show. Everybody's got something or some reason that you should not like them. It's just about what you're willing to accept and what you're willing to compromise on. And that's a huge aspect of this show. And I actually enjoy it a lot because there's no reason to be like, you shouldn't feel bad for liking that person. So Big Brother has 5 people. Are You the One? Yes, that show from MTV has 4 people on this show, and make sure I get them all off right here. Are You the One is Devin, Tori, who are partnership in this, and we'll talk about how the numbers split up when you have your closest alliance as your partner. It stops you from being able to take votes in certain situations. Devin and Tori Nelson and Nuri, who are all four of those people are partners. Nelson and Nuri are partners with each other and former romantic partners as well in real life. Tori and Devin, not so much, but they are people who have been heavily billed to start this for the promo leading up into this show. Tori and Devin made it to the final last season, and they've been on a steady rise since, I think, Dirty 30 to become the faces of the challenge in terms of their effectiveness. Tori is typically one of the more athletic and more physically talented ladies that's in the house, and Devin is a tactician who specializes in pissing people off. He says mean things to make people think with anger as opposed to with a cool head. But at the end of the day, he's one of the typically he's middle of the pack throughout the course of the season, but by the time the final rolls around, there are very few middle of the pack type players, and his skill set in terms of like physical challenges is something that holds him back. Like, for instance, last year the final was to run to the top of a mountain, memorize like a 27 letter code, go to the bottom of the mountain, type it into a safe, and you win. Devin memorized the entire code and was able to go to the top of the mountain, had to like work his way back down to keep his heart rate from going too low, but because he didn't have speed on his side to be able to get up and down the mountain quickly enough, he got back to the pin pad to type the combination in second. But at that point, the winners of last season, who were Casey and CT, had already won. Devin gets to the pin pad, types it in on the first try, whereas everybody else who tried to do it had to go back to the top of the mountain at least once or something like that, or had to try and figure it out at the bottom of the mountain and guess what it was in combination. Devin was able to sit there and do it on the first try. So that's the kind of guy you're dealing with in that situation. Survivor, I will point this out. They have 3 people who used to be on Survivor, yes, the reality TV show from CBS. But as you guys know, if you're a Survivor fan, they have multiple versions in different countries. So the 3 people who are from Survivor, one is Turbo, who we're going to talk about a lot lately in the back half of this show. One is, what is his name? I have his season written down, but I don't have his name on here. And it's Jay. I don't know why it took me so long to remember that. It's Jay. I'm not going to say anybody's last name on here because I don't really need to do that. They don't use people's last names in the show. It's Jay, and then Michelle won the Survivor Cohen Wrong. That being said, none of those people are in an alliance with each other except probably Jay and Michelle, because they are partners on this show. Turbo is not in an alliance because other people were on Survivor. Don't even know where Turbo's alliances actually lie right now. I guess that's one of the big question marks going into this season. The tie for the biggest show is Love Island. Yeah, like that show, Love Island. Has Sam Bird, whose wife now is Kayla, who is a challenge vet. They got married apparently 3 months prior to coming onto the show. That's a big storyline for them. And then there's Johnny Middlebrooks and Olivia Kaiser. Olivia Kaiser is one of 4 German-born competitors in this season, and Johnny Middlebrooks came in second on Love Island. So that's the show breakdown. And now we move on to, let's see, what was I? Yeah, so now we move on to the breakdown of each one of the partner pairs. This is going to take a while, but I spent a lot of time coming up with every angle I could possibly think of for each one of these people. And we'll start at the top. So I got Amber Bortras. They call her Amber B for that reason, but they just call her Amber now. Anyway, her partner she's a former champ. Don't forget that part. It's very important. They bring that up all the time, despite the fact that people do not treat her like a former champ, which I think could be something else, which we're going to talk about later on in this show as well. An important aspect of reality TV shows in general. But it's hard to figure out if Amber has any true allies left or available in the house for her to even obtain. She attempted to repair the connection between Casey and Fessy and her, but based off these numbers, Big Brother does have the most in terms of people who are from the same reality TV show. But the fact of the matter is like that's 5 people out of 28. And there's a good chunk of people who might be free agents when this is all said and done. One of the big things that they pushed in the press was when they were talking to Johnny Bananas and Nani, who are one of the partnerships that shows up later in the show. They were like, do you know any of these people? And that was the running joke. that like Johnny and Nani and none of these people know each other. Like there's not a huge source of vets for these people to be able to pull from throughout the course of this entire show, because a lot of the time what you'll see is they get into these partner situations, but the real partnership is, are you partnered with a rookie? Are you partnered with a vet? Are you partnered with another vet and you're another vet, or are you a rookie pair? And you'll hear that come up a bunch because the last 2 seasons, basically they've only put rookies in elimination for like the first 4 episodes, and it got super annoying because the rookies, if they had all banded together, had enough numbers to be able to overcome the vets, but at certain points they have been put into elimination so much that they could not overcome the numbers that the vets had, and the vets weren't going into elimination because they had the numbers on their side, right? So that was a thing that consistently came up, and hopefully won't be a thing this season, based off the fact that they went and tried to diversify the group of players. They've also doubled the number of they've also doubled the number of players in the game that will be brand new to the show, right? Like there'll be people who have like never been on the challenge because they went and got like people they're related to. And a lot of people, I think you can safely say this, there's a good chunk of people in these pairs that their mentality is, this could become a source of income for our family if we compete well enough on this show. There's a lot of couples who have come on and tried to do the same thing in years past, and it has not worked out well because the house makes people horny all the time, and there's a lot of good-looking people around, even if you're in a relationship. Ask Kayla. That's a real thing. But going back to Amber B, she brought her boyfriend, and it's going to be interesting because that makes Chauncey a rookie. Amber B doesn't necessarily have a ton of connections, and that is a pseudo, like, it's a person that a lot of people in the house that typically, if there was all vets in the house, would not care for all that much. And then even if only a couple people in the house don't like you, they will still have situations where Amber B is like, oh, if I side with her this one time, then all these other people are going to flip up on me, right? And it's not worth the trouble that comes with siding with Amber B, even if she's right sometimes, because it doesn't matter if you're right, it matters if you have the numbers more often than not. Her boyfriend, Chauncey, who, guess what? I'm going to be honest with you. This pair is probably going to be on the chopping block pretty early, because nothing scares people more in reality TV shows, especially ones with athletic endeavors and athletic feats that need to be done, than buff black men, and Chauncey's pretty buff. People already don't like Amber. Chauncey's a buff guy. He's a rookie. He's going to be an easy target for a lot of people. He might get goated into situations. He might get played out of being able to even control his own fate early on in this one. And as we all know, we've heard it before. We've heard it 1,000,000,001 times before. It's the most coded language in all of reality TV. Man, he looks like he's going to be a real good competitor, even though no competition has gone on yet. They're just looking at him physically. They're like, he's going to be a comp beast. He's going to be a physical beast. All this kind of stuff like that. And we gotta get him eliminated early as possible. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that phrase, not only on this show, but other shows. More so on other shows. The challenge is actually not as bad with the racism as I've seen in other reality TV shows, in particular Big Brother. Because there's a lot of diversity within the cast. Typically, it used to be a lot of white people previously on the challenge, but there are now more and more. They're probably one of the more diverse reality TV shows, even though there's still a large chunk of white people or white passing people. And I'm gonna talk about how race has a factor in this, because there's sometimes when it's like blatantly obvious, and there's sometimes where it's just like, oh no, it's not racism, that person's just ass. But yeah, I'm sure Chauncey's heard about Amber's experience and seen like firsthand like the kind of damage it's done to her as a person, and he probably already has some people that he does not like, which means that he's cut off from accessing certain alliances. Even if Amber wants to put things in the past, it might be hard for Chauncey, because when you love somebody or like care about somebody, you see them bending over backwards for people you don't think deserves their kindness. You're going to have that kind of reaction. You're going to have that kind of reaction. It's a factor. It's a real thing. I think a lot of people can relate to that experience. And based off the people who are coming into the house, is going to be a lot of instigators. And that's not including Bananas, right? He's also apparently a full-time influencer, so you have to imagine he has, one, a certain degree of charisma, and then two, knows how to sell it on camera, so he's going to be somebody that the producers are going to be looking for and give a lot of camera time to and give a lot of opportunities to make some shit happen, right? Moving on, Nam Vo and Emmy. Emmy is it's a different Emmy. It's not Emmy that we've seen in past years. Man, she was wild. Boom, buggity, boom, boom, boom. Anyway, that's for the people who are big fans of the challenge. Nam Vo. Nam is the biggest what-if player of the challenge in the last 3 years. 3 seasons. He is technically a 3-season vet. And and we'll break it down. This is Nam's 3rd season being on, quote unquote, the challenge, and we've never seen him in an elimination because of you know what? Let's take it from the top. Nam is a runner-up for an obstacle course show called Beastmaster that was on Netflix for season 1. That makes him like the perfect candidate for everything that the challenge involves, because so much of it is obstacle course type shit. And on top of that, Nam is like physically, like he's tall and he's jacked. He's also like a mechanical engineer apparently. But if you go to his Instagram account, he's like a fitness influencer. Like he has like an 8-pack, and his 8-pack has like abs on the abs, right? That doesn't necessarily make him athletic or anything like that. But we have seen Nam was on Double Agents. That was his first season ever. He was partner, and we'll talk about his original partnership, but he got injured 12 episodes into the season. Basically, he did like multiple daily challenges with his back already messed up, and then it got to the point where he couldn't recover from it, which may or may not be, a sign of the kind of training that Nam does in his free time. And then he contracted before Spies, Lies, and Allies during the COVID season. He contracted COVID and was removed from the environment because that was back when we didn't even have vaccines. So we didn't know what we were doing, all that kind of stuff like that. He's an engineer by day. Like I said before, he's like a tall, strong fitness dude. He sells supplements and coaching online. He does ads, like a ton of ads for different companies and stuff like that. He is a real full-on influencer. If you remember, he was paired with Lolo Jones, making them it's not even probably the most athletic partner pair from Double Agents. Lolo left the show because she felt like because of a series of times where it really, to me, felt like she was trying to do the whole like, do you know who I am kind of card. And to Lolo Jones's credit, she is an Olympian, a multi-time Olympian. So if there was ever a time to pull like the do you know who I am card, it is during a highly athletic and competitive entire reality TV show environment, right? But it definitely caused a rift between her and Nam. They struggled with the team aspect of it. They were the most athletic and probably skilled partnership that was in the entire house, and they just were not a threat at all because people didn't even try and like break them up. People didn't try and even really bother them because they were already destroying themselves in a pretty public fashion. Like almost every single challenge, they were destroying themselves. Nam is a guy who clearly has the fitness level of a lot to be elite, and he won. I think they won like a couple of challenges or whatever, and it was like Lolo definitely was just being like the whole like let's go, pick it up, make it faster, because she doesn't understand that she didn't understand that certain people don't react that well to that type of criticism, that type of coaching, all that kind of stuff like that. Nam is also German. He's one of 4 Germans that are on the show. He does not speak English all that well, although I've heard him speak English, and I'm like, I would consider that good English. It's just a little bit slow because he thinks about what he's doing. Shout out to our newest follow, Raphael STM. Shout out to you, man. Shout out. Appreciate you hopping on the show or checking out the show, man. If you got any questions about the challenge, drop them in the chat. That is follower number 64 for the Twitch channel, baby. We trying to cook it up here. Anyway, going back to Nam and Lolo, I think that one, because that's the longest period of time that we've seen them on the show, we can draw a lot of information from that being a factor of how he is as an athlete. He didn't react well to Lolo's attempts to make it to make this like super competitive. They were already leagues ahead of everybody in terms of like athletic prowess, and she was trying to get even further ahead. And it's super annoying when it's like, dude, we are already going hard and you're still asking people to do more, because it makes it seem like you're never going to be satisfied, even though people are already giving their all. Anyway, they tore each other apart. They definitely thought there was multiple weeks where Nam was talking about putting himself into elimination to get a new partner or to get sent home. And he thought that was the best move for him because he couldn't be on the same team as Lolo anymore. And Lolo talked about how she wanted to do it. She broke down. She cried. A bunch of stuff like that. A lot of people in the house talked about how, a lot of professional athletes try and come on the challenge and they think it's going to be easy, but they don't even, some of them do decent at that physical aspect of it. Some of them are above average at the physical aspect of it, but the relationship building and the partnership building in the real world, as opposed to like a sporting environment where you're in a locker room and everybody kind of has like the same universal goal, is something that a lot of them have that's going for them. So, that was a huge thing. That was a big thing that kind of messed up Nam's first appearance on the show, and then he didn't show up in the second season. He was supposed to be on the show because of COVID. Anyway, he's back. He's got a new partner. Don't forget, Nam is one of the few vet free agents that's available in this game, and he's probably the number one 5-star recruit, like Elite 11 type guy, because of his physical ability. And as far as everybody else knows, Nam's pretty loyal. So that's got huge value in this game. So it'll be interesting to see who he aligns himself with. His language barrier, because he does speak German primarily. If you go to his Instagram account, he does not speak English at all on his Instagram account. It's nothing more than a short sentence, right? And that's the caption. Everything else underneath it is like a paragraph of German, right? He'll be like, "This is Monday," and then it's like a full paragraph of like things in Germany or things in German. And he, him being in Germany, also him also struggling like language wise, I would say, kind of, even though it seemed like everybody in the house really understood what he was saying a lot better than some people who've been on the show who are actually speaking English but have such a thick accent or a dialect or something like that. Like the chick who used to be a firefighter and was like from Boston, and Devin was like, "I literally can't understand my partner, and we're speaking the same language allegedly." So but yeah, Nam is going to be huge this season. His alliance, where he lines up, could set an alliance up to be able to make a deep run all the way to the finals, because he could be that missing piece that when you don't win the daily challenge, Nam is going to come through for you, especially if he's going to be healthy the whole time. So that's the biggest question. It makes you believe, based off of the way his social media is set up, that he doesn't really connect with any of the other challenge competitors, which gives you an idea that like people probably reached out to him before the show because they know he exists and knew he was going to be on the show. And then there's going to be a ton of people who try and talk to him when he's in the house. He lives in a different time zone, and he's technically only been on one show for 12 episodes throughout the course of 2 seasons, right? This is going to be his 3rd season. He's only been on 12 episodes. So he's also from a show that doesn't have any other player connections. Beastmaster has never had there's never been another Beastmaster competitor on the challenge. So he doesn't have the Big Brother connection, the Survivor connection, the Love Island, the, what is it? Are You the One is one that a lot of challenge competitors come from as well. And he just doesn't have that anymore. So it makes you feel like he is open to listening to all offers, but there's something to be said about he's probably going to have to make his decision quickly, because it's either he's seen as a great potential ally or he's seen as a great threat within the house, especially if he shows up in that first challenge and he does some of the stuff that we saw in those first 12 episodes where he didn't win, but he was like in the top 3 a bunch of the times. That's like a real thing that becomes an issue. He clearly trains very intentionally, which will go a long way in the challenge, especially if you want a shot at the final. Nam has never seen elimination, so that's going to be a factor for him as well. There could be a group of people who try and put the rookie tag on Nam, right? Like they could be like, Nam's a rookie, he needs to go in there and prove himself, and they vote him in almost immediately. So this is another aspect to it. Nam is paired up with a true rookie herself. This is her first ever time on the challenge. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Her name is Emmy Russ. be ready for all of the corny Beauty and the Beast jokes. One, because Emmy is very beautiful, but two, because she was on a show called Beauty and the Nerd. Two, she was on season 2 of that. She's been on Celebrity Big Brother, which makes me wonder if she could try and like parlay that into the Big Brother alliance. That could be huge, even though nobody else on the show has ever been in Celebrity Big Brother. She appeared on, like I said before, Beauty and the Nerd, which technically, even if you said Beauty and the Nerd, it would fit for Nan because he's a mechanical engineer, right? He just has an 8-pack, which, by the way, is becoming more and more common as time goes on, like super fit nerds, because turns out you can't just make one person do one thing all the time throughout their entire life. Turns out you can bench press 225 and read books. Who would have thought? Anyway, last elimination in the house for Big Brother Germany. She was the last person before they went to jury to select who wins, so that was kind of tough. And Secret Story won in Spain. This was one of the many reality TV shows that I did some research on that I didn't necessarily need to, but I did for fun. Each person comes into the house with a secret, and you have to figure out which secret matches up with which person. A Fabio-looking guy won this one, which is not surprising. It's basically the equivalent of a straight white male winning a reality TV show. The guy looked like, I'll say. But her secret was she was abandoned by her mom and grew up in a juvenile detention center. That's going to be a story. She's being billed as the exact build in terms of like how the show is trying to sell her to people. Like they're trying to sell her as the exact opposite of Nam. So Nam is going to do all the grunt work, and she's going to be like the beautiful woman who does all the talking and the sweet talking and getting in people's faces and all that kind of stuff like that. So this actually might be a pseudo rookie team. In terms of how people view Nam, that'll be interesting to have a conversation about, especially considering from what I can tell, Nam is not in the challenge universe in terms of like following other people from the show, following the show itself on Instagram, all that kind of stuff like that. So I'll be interested to see how that works out. Going from a team that we think could be considered a rookie team to a team that, quite frankly, just off alliances and people that they know alone might be able to cruise to the finals. So Devin Walker and Tori Deal, they seem to be one of two pairs who are getting top billing for this season. And it may be because I pay attention a lot to what Tori does. Tori was my pick to win last year. And, she came in second place, whatever. She got money too because they split the money up. CT got a bunch of money. CT gave a bunch of money to each person at the end. Or CT and Casey decided to split the money up like 4 ways, get like 50 G's to each person because they cool like that, you know what I mean? They could have took all the money and left, but they was like, there's no way that they can do that kind of stuff. And now they're forever indebted, right? Like, and I'm assuming that that's going to carry over to Tori and Casey, who are two of the most competitive ladies on the show. They seem to be one of two pairs that are getting like the top billing. I will point out the pair that seems to be getting the most billing because they're most experienced in terms of like veteran status on the show. They've been on the most seasons. Probably once they get into the house, they're not going to start off in the house, which is a big advantage you give to the younger players to try and build an alliance before something comes in and fucks up the whole system, right? So Bananas and Nani are probably getting the most attention next to Tori and Devin. Tori and Devin are going to start off in the house, though. Bananas and Nani are coming in later. Wherever that later point is, it could literally be they do a daily challenge, which is, if you're not familiar with the challenge, every single episode is comprised of, they show you how everybody's doing like throughout the course of the day, and then they have a challenge, a daily challenge, which is like an obstacle course kind of deal, a puzzle to solve, an objective where it takes you like hitting other people, trivia. Sometimes they do trivia like on the edge of buildings, where like if you get the question wrong or the answer wrong, you can give a strike or you get a strike to somebody else, and once you get 3 strikes, you get thrown off the building. They have like safety harnesses on, of course, but it freaks people out, gets your heart rate really high because you're like standing on a plank, right? But yeah, like they're getting the top billing. Tori and Devin are getting the most attention, which makes you think that they're probably going to make it really far in this season overall. Like, what's the point of like trying to really push Devin and Tori if they're not going to make it at least to like the really tenuous part where it stops being about the little bullshit in the house and starts being about who's winning stuff, right? That being said, Devin and Tori are high priority players. and they are probably really big targets, which means that for like the first 6 episodes, people aren't even going to try and go at them. Like, for the most part, when it comes to knowing and understanding, like, if you get the risk when you know a certain player's skill set and you know that going into elimination, you don't know what the challenge is going to be, and you don't know if you can pick the challenge or not, you cannot risk the possibility that the producer magic just so happens to give this person a layup challenge for elimination. Because if you're a new person coming onto the show, production gets to pick what the elimination challenge is going to be. And we've seen it before. Jay, who we're going to talk about a little bit later on, he got picked on immediately when he got into the house. He got thrown into elimination like 3 times in a row, and he eliminated CT one time. Because he was like, well, if I get to pick whoever I go up against, I'm going to pick somebody big. And he went up against CT and he beat him, right? The other thing that goes with it, the big thing that comes with this whole situation is, like, if Devin and Tori get pulled into elimination, the production team gets to choose what the elimination is. And more often than not, if you're going up against Devin, you're going to get a puzzle. You know what I mean? Sometimes they make it that blatant, especially if they want that person to stick around. So there's no point in, like, the newbies going for them, and then the vets are also got that pseudo alliance where they're never gonna really flip up on each other. They're never gonna turn against each other. They're both also, like, really charismatic and also very talented at playing this game, or very skilled at playing this game. Tori in particular tends to do a good job of making good connections. Devin, on the other hand, a lot of people seem to have, like, a negative opinion of him in terms of, like, his aspirations to be like the new Johnny Bananas, even though he doesn't win like Johnny does. Like, he hasn't won daily challenges like Johnny does. Even though Devin's really good, he's not at the same winner level of Johnny Bananas. He just wants to be the top dog, and so he has to go at him all the time, and that's his goal. Tori, on the other hand, Tori does a good job of making alliances with people because she's a lady. So the gap between her, I can't even say that because there's been times where it's like the gap between the top guy and the middle guy is gigantic. It's an ocean. But typically when Tori's on any given season, Tori is top 3 and possibly top 2 in athleticism and ability. And on top of that, like, spatial awareness in terms of competitiveness as well. That's a real thing. She also does a really good job of bonding people to her, not necessarily to her alliance. So that's a big factor. I'm interested to see if Devin will be one of the physically smallest guys. Like in years past, he's basically been like the back end of the size category. But with all these new guys coming in, some of them come from different places. They might be a different build, and Devin might actually have like a physical advantage for once, but I don't think that's going to be the case based off my research like later on. Even though it feels like, you know, every new competitor that they bring in is more athletic than the last, especially with the direction that the show is going. This, like I said before, just like the rookie pairing is the kiss of death, this vet pairing makes you damn near untouchable. And Devin and Tori are almost untouchable. They're probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest pairs starting off. We'll talk about the bottom 5 and the top 5 in a little bit here. Fessy and Mariah. So, Fessy's back. Fessy has done a great job of molding his TV persona as the villain, and he continues to do it online. It probably comes really easy for him because he definitely comes off like he's a jerk more often than not, because Fessy seems like he is a dick like 10% of the time that he exists, and the other 90% of the time he's either normal or a nice person, because people keep getting reeled in and then like repelled back in terms of like the way Fessy acts. The women on the show have not been shy about telling Fessy he acts like an asshole, and it seems like maybe he's taking some of that to heart. He's been an athlete his entire life. I think he played football at San Diego State University, played tight end, keeps talking about how, you know, he could have gone to the league. Sounds like a dude who, if you go to like any small town in Texas, he's like, I went to state back in the 90s, could have gone to college, but my knee messed up, whatever kind of deal. And there's no telling really. For the most part, if you're an NFL prospect, you know, a lot of people know, you know what I mean? But yeah, so he's done a really good job in years past to cause strife with his actions, whether they be sexual or intimidation. for a lot of situations. Fessy's made out with a lot of ladies in the show, which, more power to you, my dude. As long as you're single and not cheating on nobody, I don't really care. You know what I mean? A lot of people are very attracted to his face and the fact that he's tall and got muscles and stuff like that. That's cool, man. He also, he's become more nuanced in terms of trying to bring in more people to the Big Brother Alliance as he sees fewer and fewer Big Brother players being on the show. In particular, his attempt to bring Amber back into the Big Brother Alliance in some way, shape, or form last season shows the development of a supervillain. You love to see it. You really love to see the growth. And that's exactly what it is. So we'll see if he continues to try and make those efforts as this season unfolds, because there are fewer Big Brother players than there have been in years past, especially considering one of the Big Brother players this season, two of them are on the same partnership. So we'll see if they even make the effort to try and join the Big Brother Alliance, or they try and do their own thing, because they're two players from the same season. So they are a little bit different than Casey and Fessy. So that be the case. Whatever. The Big Brother Alliance has also done a pretty good job, especially with Fessy kind of like at the core of it, of controlling the game in a lot of different situations. The biggest threat to the Big Brother Alliance has been CT, who has made it very clear he's not flipping up on his friends. He's not flipping up on the show alliance. And if they just get CT out of the way, the Big Brother Alliance can kind of run this show. They, even by accident, they set Amber up to be successful and win the championship. They were a part of her winning her title a couple years ago. With the partners being personal picks, the Big Brother Alliance will double its presence to a certain degree, especially considering, they kind of avoided that with Tommy and Annalise, right? Because Tommy and Annalise are both from the same season of Big Brother. If they had been on two different partnerships, it would have been totally different. But Tommy was the pick to come back, or Annalise was the pick to come back, and she selected Tommy as her partner. They're both best friends in real life. They were on the same season. They actually went through like a really traumatic season of Big Brother, which we'll talk about a little bit later together. It was so bad that it was the last Big Brother season I've ever watched, Big Brother 21. Based off Mariah's physique. Oh, sorry, just to give you a breakdown, Mariah is Fessy's partner. She very much gives off Instagram model type vibes, even though it doesn't seem like that's her primary form of income. Most of her pictures are her in a bikini or like her in workout gear. Very few videos of her working out, but a lot of it is in her workout gear. So her physique is clearly, she works out, she lifts weights. She has abs from certain angles, which is like a real thing for women that have naturally higher body fat and naturally lower muscle mass. Being able to have abs is a sign of like massive dedication to not only your dietary choices, but also to going to the gym on a regular basis and building that muscle. So that's going to be huge, because Fessy might have just picked one of the more athletic players to be his partner, which is going to be huge. We'll see how much of that is gym muscle, which is just like I lift heavy thing up and down in a straight line, and how much of it is functional muscle about being able to move your body really quickly. So, speaking of uber talented athletic ladies, the doctor is in. Dr. Laurel and her partner Jack, another champion and arguably the best to ever do it, is back. The doc, who is 9-2 in elimination. She should be 10-1 if you guys remember the branched out situation. For those of you who are new and uninitiated, I'll explain it. A long time ago, Laurel was on a season with a competitor who is no longer allowed to come on the challenge anymore because she said some racist stuff about black people. What do you know? She said some racist stuff on the internet about black people, and her name is Ninja. She's a rock climber. Like, she was on, I think it's American Ninja Warrior or something like that. But she's like, that's her form of training. She gets into an elimination matchup with Laurel. It happens to be a climbing challenge where they climb up a fake tree. And the only way to climb up the tree is by putting in these little branches. And the challenge is called branching out. So there's like little pegs, and on the end of it, there's like fake green leaves. You put the peg into the slots that they've scattered all over the tree. You climb up the tree using the pegs. You get to the top, you ring the bell, you win. In this situation, this seems to be like a mistake on the part of production, which does happen, but it's not as often as you would think based off of how wild some of the shit that they pull off is. They've had people crash land skydiving before going into a final, aka Jordan. They've had wild shit happen. People get their hands caught in some of the brackets that they build and all that kind of stuff like that. This situation, they're climbing the tree and both of the ladies missed the same exact peg that is pseudo covered by a GoPro camera, and so they just think it's a mount to put in the GoPro camera. Laurel gets to the top of the tree and she's like, oh, the final peg must be in the top portion, this open area of this fake tree. She puts it in there. It sits. It's sturdy. It doesn't roll. It doesn't move. It doesn't float around and all that kind of stuff like that. She hits it. She hits the bell. She gets to the bottom. They start having a conversation about whether or not Laurel actually won, because the real peg is like at the midway point and they were able to climb further up the tree without using that peg, so neither one of them like was real suspicious about it. Anyway, Ninja keeps looking around, finds the extra peg, puts it in there, climbs to the top, and they say that Ninja eliminated Laurel, despite the fact that earlier there's like other people who have confirmed that Laurel won, despite the fact that Ninja got to the top first, but Laurel won. And Ninja went back down to like look for other pegs or whatever. It's super dumb. You should check out that season. It's really fun. She has 20 daily challenge wins and got to 3 straight finals. She finished in second place in her first 3 shows in the final, and then she won her 4th appearance on the challenge. That's how good Laurel is. Her partner is Jack Maddox, who I'm sure a ton of fans from his X on the Beach season will show up for, which is where he met Laurel apparently. He's a true rookie to the show The Challenge. Training does not seem like it's going to be an issue for either one of them. Jack is a personal trainer, and Laurel is Laurel. She's a former Division I athlete, and she's a doctor. She is also like uber dedicated to winning in general, so she'll do what it takes. It's why she was such a good college athlete, right? Jack is a personal trainer, like I mentioned before. I would like to point out there's an interesting thing that's happening. Jack, I don't know if he's always been private, but Jack's Instagram account is private right now. I don't know if it was private prior to this situation, prior to the season or whatever, but there have been in years past where people who look different or act differently get treated terribly by the vast majority white audience of the challenge. The situation with Jenny, she was a personal trainer. She was absolutely jacked. She had lip fillers and breast implants because of how much muscle she had. The lip fillers, I think it was just a personal choice. But the breast implants is a reflection of like how low her body fat was and how much muscle she had built up, right? So she had breast implants. She dominated like as a female competitor and wore the world. And a lot of people got into every single social media account that she used and kept calling her a trans woman. And it was pretty hurtful to the point where like Jenny's never come back on the show. So yeah, that can be a thing. I'm sure other people are also going to find out that Jack either still does or used to make porn, and they're going to make that a thing. So anyway, that's their partnership. Kayla and Sam Bird, we mentioned this before. Kayla she's the vet in their group there, and Sam is one of the members of the second biggest alliance, or second biggest show presence in Love Island. He's one of 3 people from Love Island that's on the show. Kayla and him are married. One of the best known connections of the entire season, because I think they're the only married couple on this one, unless Turbo's married to his girlfriend, which I don't think is the case. I thought it was at first, but everything else makes it seem like that's not the case. Well, anyway, we'll talk about that later. Kayla brought her husband, who, by the way, when I was scrolling through his Instagram, I'd like to give this man, Sam Bird, mad credit. He must have hit up a meal prep company prior to coming on the challenge and turned his training for the challenge into an opportunity for him to get mad money and to get free meals, because he leaned out. Like, you can see it. It's in the first, 6 rows of his Instagram page where, he's like, oh, this is me 4 months ago. This is me now. And he's completely, he's been eating clean and all that kind of stuff like that. And it's panned out for him. And he's leaned out, and it looks like he got paid to train for the challenge. And I find that hustling to be top tier, my guy. Anyway, he makes music. He's a DJ. Kayla in years past has shown the ability to assemble strong female alliances, knowing that the women control the house and how far the guys get to go, based off of like, you go to the final, you're only as strong as your weakest link in some cases, and a lot of the times a lot of the times people assume the women are the weakest link, when in actuality they are not. They're the stronger half more often than not, especially if they made it all the way to the finals. The dudes are usually the ones that are lagging behind sometimes. Anyway, goes into the show when this is going to be interesting to see how she reacts to the fact that there's a ton of new competitors. Can she befriend people? Also this season, with all the newbies, will she be starting from scratch and not have access to probably one of her strongest weapons? Kayla is drop dead gorgeous, and in years past, she is kind of like found herself in situations where, you know, she's been hanging out with certain guys and all that kind of stuff like that. And it has its benefits in the sense that, like, she hanging out with somebody that she finds attractive or whatever, but it also is somebody that, like, will be considerate of her position in the game. Like, that's a real thing, too. Showmances are a real thing. She's going to be on that show. She's going to be on this season with her husband. So I doubt that that's going to happen. And to be honest with you, she's a vet. That don't mean her husband is safe from elimination. Because I will put this out there. I think one of the big twists for this season is going to be that your partner is not safe. I think they're going to, like, we're going to rope you in by having you pick the person that you care about the most. And then there's going to be a point where, like, you have to split up from them, because that seems like what the challenge is all about. Especially when it comes to, like, elimination. I mean, partnered eliminations are a thing that's happened in years past, but to be like, oh yeah, like, you survived the male elimination, but your girl or, like, your partner survived their elimination, but you didn't survive yours, you get to stay in the game, your partner doesn't, right? And also there's the aspect of you get to pick a new partner. Like, that's been a thing before where, like, pairs go up against each other. The winning pair gets to pick a new partner, and the other person who's left behind, if they don't pick a new partner, swaps to somebody else. So I feel like that's what's happening. I 100% think that that's what's about to happen this season. I would love for it, because it would just cause the most drama possible, especially considering these are, like, real life people that these people care about. Fessy even mentioned that he intentionally didn't bring his sister on the show because of the external attention and the pressures of, like, being in the house. The house itself is a battlefield that you have to survive on a daily basis, and you can't just sleep through it. Sometimes people steal your pizza, and you can't let it slide. Think about that. Also a reference to previous things that have happened. Turbo and Tamara, the one-hit wonder. He's the champ. He dominated the season that he won the championship, but he's been on a couple of seasons. Turbo has returned, much to everybody's excitement, mainly because Turbo is one of the best competitors in the short amount of time that he was on the show previously, one of the best competitors to ever do it, especially in terms of the number of opportunities he's had to win, where he's placed and all that kind of stuff like that. Turbo's presence instantly puts everybody on notice in terms of, like, hey man, there's a lot, like, you cannot get on this guy's bad side. And based off of what I just saw on YouTube, they've already released the first 5 minutes of this season's number one, or episode 1, Don't Leave Me Argentina, which is like the corniest thing ever. Anyway, he seems like he out for blood. We'll see. Only time will tell. Turbo thinks that he runs everything because he won the challenge a couple years ago. Things have changed. He's on the show with a whole new group of competitors. He is also brought, and their whole situation, the way that they're trying to sell them to the audience is Turbo is the anger monster, the machine, the monster, the beast out there, and Tamara is the gentle soul that'll be the mind of reason, and together they'll be unstoppable, with Turbo dominating and Tamara making sure that Turbo doesn't piss off the wrong people. They are both, like, professional dancers, and she's his girlfriend. So Turbo has an MMA history. Turbo's presence, like I said before, scares the shit out of a lot of people. If you recall, Turbo's big moment was not only winning the championship, but also basically getting into, he got kicked off of a season of the show because he kept getting into it with Jordan, who, guess what, is one of the surprise partners coming onto the season later on. That's not a spoiler. He's been in like promos and stuff on social media. He is coming back, and he's coming back on a show which, if you don't recall, Tori Deal is his ex-fiance, who before Tori got with Jordan was with another guy who was on the show who she cheated on to be with Jordan, then got with Jordan, broke up, and then I guess in the hotel when they came back from Prague, wherever they were at or whatever, ended up like hooking up with somebody else kind of deal. I may be getting my Tori hookups mixed up. Anyway, Tori out here looking for love, and Jordan wasn't the kind of love that she needed at the time. And I'm 100% sure Jordan is going to show up and he's going to try and do the same thing he did with Turbo. Because once again, he eliminated Turbo without ever having to compete against him. He literally made Turbo eliminate himself, and why would it not work again? Is Turbo a different person? Probably. Maybe not. Depends on what the situation is. Turbo's got an MMA background, in case you guys are wondering. He has constantly shown that he has no issue throwing himself into elimination. He threatened everybody when they were on the boat going to the house that I'm going to eliminate every single one of you by throwing myself into elimination. And, a lot of people are just like, well, we have like fail safes to make sure that when you get put into elimination, you don't come back now. They've the crew, the powers that be have gotten better at figuring out how to sabotage and predict what the eliminations are going to be. And Turbo thinking that, I'll take you in elimination as a threat. Nobody's going to intentionally put themselves into elimination. And he thinks that he wins every time that people back down from going into an elimination and risking their entire game just to settle some fake beef that Turbo made up. Although I'm super pumped to see Turbo because he's actually legitimately like great at this game. Turbo has one of the best backgrounds performance-wise. He won Survivor Turkey twice. He's an MMA fighter, award-winning dancer. He won one of the best seasons of the challenge and War of the Worlds, like I said before. And he's the only Survivor winner to win Survivor and the challenge in the history of the challenge. And there's been a lot of times where they mix it up. He's only been a part of 3 seasons, and he's already got 13 daily challenge wins. So that's pretty impressive. That includes the fact that he got pulled from the season early with Jordan because of the incidents that he had. And like I said before, his partner is his girlfriend, who is also a dancer. Turbo might be the smallest dude on this season, but his training is all body control centric. So he's got like the ability to lift himself up by just his arms and his back and everything like that relatively easy, and that's always been a factor in the challenge. He's got great resistance. Like I said, his MMA background, his training is drastically different than vast majority of the dudes who are coming in from a gym environment background where they do sets and reps and stuff like that. And we'll talk about a couple of other people who fall into this category as well, but I think that that's important to understand like what these guys are doing on a daily basis to get ready for a sport, not just a workout. But yeah, we'll see. My biggest question is, how will he hold up in the house? Obviously, social-wise. Will people gun to put Turbo into eliminations early and throw him up against some of the rookies since he's begging for it so much? Will they put him in there against the rookies and try and, roll the dice, see what happens, all that kind of jazz like that? Or more than likely, Turbo's going to win a bunch of daily challenges and never really get in the danger of being into elimination. Moving on, Nelson. How many we got left? I think we got a couple left. No, we're good. So we got Nelson and his partner Nuri. Sorry, I gotta pronounce it right. This is a person that's never been on the show, so I gotta make sure I pronounce her name correctly. Nelson and Nuri. Nelson is top 5 overall in the show in experience. He has 9 elimination wins. He has one of the rarest things that has ever happened in elimination. He has the only draw in challenge elimination history. His experience is not flourished into wins, though. He still holds the streak. For those of you who are not challenge initiated, Nelson owns the longest daily challenge losing streak in the history of the show. He has lost 51 consecutive daily challenges. He has had 4 of them where he's come like a second away from being in first place, so that's fun. But being second doesn't necessarily always come with a prize. Anyway, Nelson is without the original band of brothers that he came into the show with. There's no Zach this time. There's no Corey this season either. Nelson is peak toxic masculinity and loves to use big words incorrectly in an attempt to sound smart, which is the worst combination of person possible because he thinks he's smarter than everybody else when all the evidence suggests otherwise. He is a vet on this show. He's clearly got a ton of athletic ability. He trains really hard, so that's not going to be a factor. That might be a factor for his partner, Nuri, though, who we're going to talk about her in a little bit, though. In a little bit. Anyway, he said some messed up stuff to Kayla in years past, which obviously is going to be a big problem for Sam. He's like called Kayla. I remember it was when they were locked underground in a bunker, total destruction or total madness. There we go. They were locked in a bunker, and during one of the elimination votes, like Nelson was about to get voted into elimination, so he's just like snapping and trying to yell and scream, or he was trying to get Corey not voted into elimination, and so he's yelling and saying just like messed up stuff to piss people off. Nelson called her a hoe, and Nelson has been caught cheating multiple times on a public scale. He's been on like every romance show except The Bachelor, and seems to always be constantly in a gray area with some veteran woman on the challenge. I'm sure Kayla hasn't forgotten it. I'm sure Sam is fully aware of it, and it might be a problem for Nelson in terms of being in on an alliance at all this season, because it's hard to understand where he lines up when Corey isn't around, because Corey's play last season that got him eliminated was trying to get the rookies to band together against the vets. Even if it was like a fake thing that they tried to pull off or whatever, Corey admitted to some degree he was trying to do that early on and then stopped trying to do it. Nelson, like I said before, it's one of the many things that stops Nelson from succeeding. Ashley, who's won the challenge before, mentioned before about how Nelson constantly has to hook up with the newest girls in the challenge house because all the vet ladies know like what he's up to, know like what he thinks is a relationship, and know like he, doesn't take accountability, all that jazz like that. Which makes me believe his partner is, you guessed it, like an ex-girlfriend of his. She's also a model, which makes me believe which means she does both. She eats really, really well, like dietary-wise, and trains a little bit, but she could just be one of those, like, immaculate diet cardio kind of gals. They, in my opinion, despite being another partnership with 2 black people, will be under the radar because there's a lot of people who are way ahead of them on the chopping block, in my opinion. Jay and Michelle, who are probably 2 of the biggest vet names in this game that they've, in years past, have tried to make moves happen and have had terrible backlash against them from the vets. So Jay is one of many people to make the transition from Survivor to the challenge, but both times he has been on the challenge, he's failed to make or join a strong alliance at all. Like, the Survivor people have not banded together like you would imagine they would, like the Big Brother people have, because the Survivor people, when they were on their show, had to look out for themselves. Anyway, in his 2 seasons, he's already racked up 4 elimination appearances. He's 2-2 in those eliminations. He got totally manhandled in an elimination versus Leroy that I think was like a strength one. He won 2 of them. On one season, he got into elimination 3 times. He won 2 of those, lost 1 to Rogan in a strength-based one. And Rogan is the guy who used to be a male stripper in Vegas, who was like crazy swole and came back super lean. He's only one of the few guys on this show that looks like a normal person, and that may be why he struggles to get in with some of the groups, because he's not like super jacked, he's not super fast, he looks like a normal person. He has a surfer's body. Jay basically started every season in the top 3 of targets on the vets list, so maybe with the new rookies around, they'll hold off for like a couple of weeks before they try and go hard on him, because I think because of how early he's been eliminated, they might see him as like a pseudo rookie, right? He hasn't like really made a move. He's got one daily challenge win, which is more than what Nelson's gotten in the past like 7 seasons. The same can be said for Michelle, who is a Survivor winner and a finalist. She's the only person to not ever be voted out in multiple seasons. It's pretty impressive. She was eliminated in 4 episodes on the challenge, though. Only season of the challenge when the vets either made up or caught wind of the Survivor Alliance, which is why they put her into elimination. They're both top targets with little experience and they have Survivor backgrounds. That is bad. It's bad. It'll be easy to spread lies and isolate these two, I believe, in my opinion, because it doesn't seem like they really hang out a ton with the other challenge people. I don't know about training-wise for Jay. He has like a surfer's build. He surfs a lot. Guess, who would have thought? Michelle seems like she's a cardio gal. Like she lives on either the elliptical, on the bike, or on the treadmill, or just on the road running. This is it'll be interesting to see what happens to them because it feels like the house could turn on them immediately. Horacio Gutierrez, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to say first names only. Horacio and Olivia. Horacio may be a rookie, but his show is called Exalted, and it's basically the challenge, but only with professional athletes. Like legitimately everybody on the show is like a former pro or a current pro, including Horacio, who's a professional indoor soccer player. He's from El Paso, Texas. Shout out. He knows where the good food's at. It only allows former pros on. Like I said before, Horacio plays for an indoor soccer team. He also is a big fan. He's from America. Like his name is Horacio Gutierrez, and he's from El Paso, Texas. He also does extreme obstacle courses. Like there's multiple photos of him doing Spartan races and other big time, pay a bunch of money, run through and get electrocuted type things. Obviously, he's up against it. He's a part of one of the few rookie pairs, and based off of the photos of him, he may have some problems coming his way because he looks like a real competitor. I have to imagine. I mean, he's like one of the few guys. He's one of the few people on the show that's currently an athlete, like playing a sport. So he has athleticism on his side. He could be one of those people that gets super close to winning the first daily challenge, and they may throw him into elimination. He could be one of those. He's going to be one of those people that gets really close to winning the second, and they throw him into elimination potentially at that point. But if it comes up, it feels like everything about Horacio comes off. Everything about Horacio comes off like he's gonna have all the physical tools advantage on a lot of people in this house, and that's gonna make him a number one target. Olivia, on the other hand, also very, very, very good. And we'll explain why. Obviously he's up against it. He's one of the few rookie pairs, like I mentioned before, and his too much early success could get him on the radar, and he doesn't want that. He's partnered with a Love Island winner in Olivia Kaiser, and you can tell from the way that her bio is written on the site about her, they want her to be... So she broke up with the person that she won Love Island with. They want her to be the single and ready to mingle kind of gal, which probably puts her on the hit list for Fessy, like as a person that he wants to make out with. Horacio, and you can tell me, you go look him up. Go look at her Instagram. Olivia, her last name is, Olivia Kaiser. So Kaiser. Go look up Olivia's Instagram. She still has photos of the guy that she broke up with from Love Island, because I guess they're cool or whatever. And Horacio looks just like him. Very similar. I don't know how many abs he has, because Horacio has like 72. So maybe he's just a few short. And they're going to try and sell her as like, oh, look at this. She's very pretty. By the way, she one of the 3 people that when I did my research amongst these Instagram people on their Instagram, she out here pushing Hydroxycut. I thought the feds locked them dudes up after the stuff came out about their supplements. Anyway, they must have just changed the formula and moved on with their lives, which is understandable. She gets a hot partner. she's very pretty herself. They're probably going to try and push that and see what happens. Horatio might not be around very long for that to be a thing, and they definitely might try and protect Olivia as much as they possibly can. But this is a rookie pair, which means they are at the very top of everybody's list of people to eliminate because they don't know them motherfuckers, and that's the number one reason to vote for somebody. They don't know where they line up. They don't know who they with. They don't know what they do. They don't know what they did to get here. Like I said, it's really weird. They like if the guy is the guy that I think he is that's on her Instagram, he look a lot like Horatio. Anyway, it's kind of fucked up. So we got Kim and Colleen. Keep this one straight. Kim is the dude. Colleen is the lady in this situation. Another pair of Germans. So remember, Nam and Emmy are both German. This is the second pair of Germans, but for some reason, the two white-haired, slightly blonde people get the hashtag of hashtag the Germans. Literally, in their promo video, they're like, our team name is the Germans. And I'm like, there's another all-German team. How are you the Germans? Because Kim Trikana, or Trianka? Yeah, it's Trianka. That's like a super generic German last name. Kim Trianka, he looked like he's straight out of Game of Thrones, bro. Straight up looks like he's out of House of Dragon. Like he left the set and walked onto the challenge set across the street. Go look up the photos. You tell me. Anyway, hit me up on Twitter, FB_playbook, or at the Ashton J with your opinions. Because it's hard. It's a hard sell to tell me that boy is not extra or even one of the main leads for House of Dragon. Because I was about to say they all look the same, but that's not true. Because they got black people with blonde wigs on in that show. And quite honestly, most of them don't look the same. They try to make them all look the same, and they really don't. Like, they really make a big effort to make all the white people look exactly the same with all the wigs and the way that they dress and the costuming and all that kind of stuff like that. But you can see it in their face. Not damn one of them people look the same. Anyway, back to these Germans. Kim Trianka is like a... Hold on. I'm going to go with the normalist of the two that are on this team. Colleen was the mole in The Mole Germany. That show, it's an old reality. Well, it's not old. It's a reality show that used to pop off in America where like there was one person trying to sabotage an entire group of people from being successful towards this one task. Anyway, Colleen used to be on that show. She was the mole, and I don't think they actually figured out who she was. She has like a psychology degree as well. They put that in her MTV bio as if that's gonna mean something when the people inside the house get a hold. Guess what? Most of the people inside the house that have been around there for more than 5 seasons, they too have a degree in psychology. They just don't know it. Kim is a top tier dancer and won a romance reality show. Obviously, there's not too many physical challenges involved with that one. The one that he won is called Prince Charming, and he won like season 3. So I don't know, did he break up with the person, or was he like the most charismatic person? That could be a deadly combo, because I'm sure the way they did the psychological profile is like Colleen's gonna stay calm under pressure. Kim is gonna be able to go out there and woo a lot of people. I'm a dude, and I can't tell you if Kim is attractive to women. So if you're a lady out there, tell me if Kim Trianka is attractive. If you get down with the Game of Thrones way. They are a rookie pair. Guess what? Don't matter how good you look or how clever you are, you're at the top of the list. You got to be worried when you come in there. You towards the top of the list. That's just facts. Man. They might have some kind of inside track on this one, and this is like a really loose thread, a really loose theory that I had. They might be able to finagle an alliance with like Nam and Emmy, and then that makes them 4 people that can count on each other. And if Nam, like, once again, this is the problem, right? Like, I don't know how good Colleen and Kim are going to be, and I don't know how good Emmy's going to be. I know Nam is going to be good under certain circumstances. That's the big question. Is it even worth trying to get all the Germans together? Who knows? Only time will tell. And, just make sure the Germans don't get together in an alliance. I feel like that's happened before some other time and bad things happen. Johnny Middlebrooks and Raven Rochelle. I don't know why I'm reading last names again. So this is Johnny and Raven. Yeah, it's Raven. Ravyn. Johnny is physically cut. Most of his training stems from gym-based lifting heavy weights and dietary choices. He too was advertising Hydroxycut. Don't know. Maybe it still works without making your heart explode. He was a runner-up on Love Island, and based off all the press, he's either trying to convince us he really wants to have sex with Raven, his partner. He actually wants to have sex with Raven, his partner, or he's one of those guys that when he tries to convince somebody of something and he wants to use his nice voice just sounds overtly sexual, because a lot of the time it sounded like it was a lot of sexual energy in the way that he was talking to not only Raven but also to the camera, trying to tell them about how he's going to play the game. Anyway, Raven is an actor and doesn't appear to do any form of athletic training, but she's in very good shape. She lives the IG model life. No shade to her. Mad respect. I wish I could do it. You know what I mean? I'm just not sexy. I do have the boobs for it, just not the abs. They're a rookie pair, and they're both black. Need I say more? We'll see. That, to me, in my history of watching reality TV shows, if there is... Oh, man. There's one thing that reality TV contestants hate more than one black person, it's two. Ooh, we'll see. Like I said, the challenge is better than most reality TV shows, which is something I enjoy a lot. But they still use some of the really whack-ass tropes as reasons they just so happen to put the black rookies into tough situations. Johnny might be able to lean on his Love Island connection. I doubt that'll be the case. That's like a loose thread. He shares a striking resemblance in some ways to Corey, who is a challenge favorite. He's also single. Raven is a girl that he has staunchly said in his press conference is somebody that they actively chose to remain friends in the friend zone. Which, when some dudes say friend zone, they mean it like as an insult. And when some dudes say it, they mean it as like what it should be, which is like that's a defining location of like where our friendship is at as man, woman. Speaking of which, we could talk about some racist incidents on another reality TV show as we're getting towards the end. I think this is the last breakdown. And then we do the top 5, bottom 5. So yeah, this is our last partnership. I'm not doing the heavy hitters because they are technically not in the house yet. Tommy and Annalise. Annalise has been on the show before. Tommy and Annalise were also a part of the last season of Big Brother I ever watched. I used to be a Big Brother fan, and then Big Brother season 21 happened. And for those of you who are Big Brother fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll give you some examples. Big Brother season 21 was won by a guy named Mickey. He is a tall white man who is very muscular and was accused of highly racist actions multiple times throughout the course of the show. Jackson, who eventually won and is your typical buff white guy, chose to banish. They had a point where he becomes camp director. The whole theme was like they're at like a sleepaway camp for Big Brother that year. He becomes camp director, and that gives him the ability to banish 4 players into into a solo elimination. So there's 4 of them. The last person to make it out of a maze, it was like they had to do a maze in the dark, and the last person to make it out of the maze gets eliminated. He sent in the only 2 black people on the show. He sent in the only Hispanic American plus size woman on the show, and he sent in the oldest guy on the show. But I can tell you this much right now. The Hispanic woman he's talking about is Jessica Millargo, who I follow on Instagram. She lasts a little bit longer, but she gets eliminated shortly after. The older guy, I think his name is Cliff, he makes it all the way to the jury. He's like one of the final 3 jurors or whatever before they decide who wins. And the 2 black people, like they're literally eliminations 1 and 2 in the show. So they had a point where the host is sitting down with the first 4 people eliminated from the show, and they all just so happen to be the people of color on it. They're all the darkest skin tone people on the show, straight up. Anyway, Matthews, the Aquaman lookalike, who, if you've watched that season, there's a guy who looks exactly like Jason Momoa, and I'm sure that's why he was casted. He made derogatory comments towards other contestants, including the only brown-skinned person. I think Ovi Kabir is Indian. He called him a brown flame, and Jessica Milagros, who is the lady that I mentioned before, the Hispanic plus-size model, that's how she defines herself on Instagram, he called her a maggot. I mean, literally just called her a maggot. He made a rice pudding joke about the only Asian American contestant on the show twice in 1 week. Her name is Isabella Wong. There is a situation where Isabella Wong is in an alliance that bullies one of their alliance members pretty heavily. The have-nots phase was the shortest in the history of the show. If you don't know what the have-nots are, it is literally, there's a room in the house in Big Brother where the beds are uneven and they have like little foam spikes and the pillows are like bricks and you can only hours, all that kind of stuff like that. That's literally what the point of the show is. It's called the have-nots for a reason. And they cut it short because the guy who would eventually win the show literally cheated, and they caught him on camera during the 24-hour streams. He went into the kitchen, got the food that everybody else is able to eat, shoved it in his pockets, went into the shower stall, and ate them off camera because he knows that the camera can't be in the shower stalls. But everybody saw him go and get the food, so they saw him and tracked him all the way through. It was all over Twitter. It was all over the Reddit. Everybody saw it because everybody sees everything in Big Brother because the cameras are on 24 hours in Big Brother, and you can access it by paying for CBS Plus. The show apparently didn't want to punish him for some reason, and so they just stopped having the have-nots. So like they literally changed like the format of the show that has existed, and this is season 21, and have-nots have been a part of it since day one. And so they changed it for the guy who would eventually win it, and like just so happens to be the white guy. You know, they punished, like literally they're like, oh, we saw you in the have-nots room or whatever. We saw you break one of the have-not rules or whatever. You're punished by getting an extra eviction vote. And so now it only takes 3 people to vote you in for you to be eliminated, not 4, right? Or for you to be evicted, it only takes 4. The first 4 evicted contestants were all people of color. Anyway, they will be interesting add-ons to the alliance. Like I said before, and then later on, by the way, with that have-not situation, they apparently came out and said that his name is Mickey because there was 2 Michaels or something like that on the show, or 3 of them, and his name was Mickey. He came out and I guess said that he had like an eating disorder that he didn't disclose to the show beforehand, and so him not being able to eat, and as a form of punishment, messed with him psychologically, so he went and got food because he deserves food. But yeah, I mean, he could have ate the slop, which is what all the have-nots have to eat for an entire week. Anyway, there will be interesting additions to the Big Brother Alliance if they choose to go that path, and I think that's the biggest question. Do Tommy and Elise try and do their own thing, or do they choose to go the Big Brother path, especially with Jay and Michelle available, seemingly, as free agents in terms of building an alliance together? And on that note, that's my personal breakdown of every single pair for the season premiere of season 38 of The Challenge, Ride or Die. So, one thing before we go, I did bottom 5 and top 5. There are 14 initial starting pairs for this season, and I ranked the top 5 and the bottom 5. So here's my bottom 5 pairs right here. I put Chauncey and Amber because I still think that the lingering belief that Amber is a snake is going to just keep following her entire career, just like they talk about how Johnny stole that money even though he didn't. Just like they talk about how Ashley stole money from Hunter even though she won with the fastest time in the final and just chose not to share her money with Hunter, which is understandable because Hunter tried to harass the shit out of her for the entirety of that season. You should go watch it. Check it out. It's really good. Dirty 30. Nam and Emmy, because they are technically floaters, are my number 11 pair right here. I don't think that they're actually up for like day 1 elimination or even day 2 or day 3 elimination. I think that because the longer they take to show their cards, the more enemies they will build inside of the house, and that'll be a factor. Jay and Michelle are pretty high on pretty much everybody's hit list, I would think. Sorry about that. Jay and Michelle, I think, are pretty high on everybody's hit list because of the Survivor connection. Jay has been the punching bag of the house in years past. Michelle has been caught trying to form a Survivor alliance before, and she's probably going to try and scoop up a bunch of the free agents because now the alliances are there's not enough of a connection through the shows for the alliances to exist just based off of the show that we were all on together or like nearby of, right? Because if you know anything about reality TV, if you're like if you're on the show the season before or 2 seasons before or 2 seasons after, you're connected to those people in a couple of ways because sometimes those people end up coming back like later on in the show and all that kind of jazz like that. But Johnny and Raven, I almost put them as the lowest ranked number 14 team, but Johnny has a connection to the Love Island people. We'll see if that becomes a factor. But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, Big Brother 21 is just one of many examples, one really blatant example of the bias and the racism that goes on, whether it be conscious or subconscious on reality TV shows. I mean, if you watch reality TV, you see how visceral some people react to normal things that black people do on those shows. And Johnny and Raven don't look like they're people that are just going to, bend over and bow down or whatever because they're human beings and they shouldn't be, especially just because you're really good on some reality TV show. That's going to be a factor. Their loose connection to Love Island is the only reason that I think they are 13th instead of 14th. Kim and Colleen have no connection to any single show and also don't really look like they're super athletic off the jump. Colleen is very pretty, which will help in some situations. She also is very smart, which will help a lot more in a lot of other situations. Don't know how Kim is going to react, and because of that factor, the fact that the type of show that he won makes you think that he's super charismatic and all that kind of stuff like that, but I think that's an important factor. But going back to another pair that I didn't put in my bottom 5, it's because I really couldn't find a spot for them, but Horatio and Olivia, because like I said before, I think that Horatio can really make a run for these first 3 daily challenges to the point where people either see value in him being in their alliance and try and get him together. And then Olivia, still a mystery in terms of what athletic prowess she has. She could be very good, and she could also be a person that's very good socially. Same thing with Horatio. We'll find out. Only time will tell. The super high end athletes typically get a lot of attention early on the show, and Horatio looks like he could be one of those guys, especially with a soccer background. That's speed and conditioning, two of the hardest things to develop while you're in the house. So when you show up with them, it is going to go a long way. My top 5 partners for season 38, ride or die. Tori and Devin. Number 1, because of the press billing, gives me the hint that they're going to be around for a while. And then 2, because their connections to the vets. Like I said before, Tori is really charismatic. Devin is as well. Devin's got a whole new crop of people that he can betray that don't know anything about the way that he plays. Casey and Kenny. Casey is the reigning champ, and I think that that's going to draw a lot of people to her in terms of people who are outside of the Big Brother Alliance. Kenny is a blank slate. Don't really have any feelings towards him, and I think that's better than a lot of the situations you talk about, like Amber B and Chauncey and the people that she's connected to coming in. Casey's the reigning champ, and I think that's going to draw a lot of people to keep her around and give her pseudo power because they understand that she knows how to win this thing, and they want to do what she's trying to do to be able to win, and they can't do that unless they're aligned with her. So it'll probably draw more people. She'll have Fessy on her side, and that'll help a lot. Laurel and Jack, I think Laurel, just off intimidation, off the fact that most people, depending upon how eliminations go, whether it be partnered or individually, Laurel will be one of the last people to get called out in comparison to some of these younger ladies who are coming onto the show. Jack looks like he's pretty athletic, and like I said before, his biggest thing is that the training part is not going to be a factor. He's not going to be a partner that has to be convinced to train. So they're already ahead of typically half the people who show up. because a lot of the partners that are at the bottom, we don't know if these people train or if they're just people who are naturally in what looks to be good shape. We don't know how these people are going to react to being in a house with unlimited alcohol and being able to party and all that kind of stuff like that. A lot of these people are going to be able to get by on their good looks for like a long period of time and being able to talk to people even though they're not making actual deals, right? Because they don't have any power, because they're not a threat to win anything. Kayla and Sam, I think because Kayla's connections to other people, even though there's not very many of them left, but I also think that because Sam and Kayla clearly they both train pretty hard. Don't know if Sam's training is going to pay off for him or anything like that, but their connection as husband and wife, I think, will go a long way in terms of making sure that they stick it out and stick together. Kayla is going to be interesting what she does strategy-wise this season, because now Sam has to go along with it, and it may end up with Kayla doing what she tried to do last time, which was gather a bunch of the ladies in the house and get them into an alliance. We'll find out. Turbo and Tamara, athleticism for both Turbo and Tamara. Turbo with persistence, Turbo with intimidation is going to be at the top of this list, and I think that'll stop people from trying to go at him and trying to threaten him. I will also point out that there seems to be some of the heavy hitters can probably take Turbo. There also seems to be some of these younger guys who can take him as well. In particular, like you talk about Fessy. Fessy, look, man. Fessy don't do well when he's not the biggest dog that's in the room or whatever, but when he goes up against little dudes, he tries to embarrass them. So physically, Turbo is one of the smaller guys on this season, and we'll see how much of the fight in the dog comes out, because I think that's a lot of what Turbo is about, right? Like he's a lot of, I showed up here to win this, and I told you I'm gonna win it, and I'm here to take it. You think everybody's gonna hand it to you as the bigger person. Turbo plays big. You know what I mean? Like, he isn't physically big, but he plays big, and that goes a long way. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you. That's all I got. We tried to put it together one time. Got an hour and a half out of that. That's surprising. Not surprising I can talk that long, but, like, surprising in general that we got that much content out of it. Anyway, I'll be back next week with the reaction to episode number 2 on Tuesday. Hit me up on Twitter, FB_playbook at the Ashton J. Follow me on Twitch and on YouTube at Broke Boy Sports, and I'll label it just like I did this one, the challenge only conversation. Talk to you later.